Hello, this is Zach Brahmeyer from Incorta, and today what I want to talk about is Google BigQuery and Incorta, laying the foundation for enterprise analytics. Now, at Incorta, we've been working on this integration for several years now to make it easier for organizations such as yours that perhaps you have Oracle Cloud ERP Fusion, maybe you have EBS, maybe you have other core data systems or ERPs where you need to land data out into Google BigQuery. Now, Incorta brings a lot of expertise around specifically the Oracle ERPs. And we have, extensive models built out that enable analytic-ready data within days, not months or years of engineering effort. We'll spend a lot of time out in platform today, but I want to cover off just some basics for some general knowledge here. Now, effectively, what we're seeing here is, Incorta can extract data from pretty much any source system. Now, again, we have a lot of expertise around Oracle ERP and various other systems. One of the most common challenges organizations face is around Oracle Cloud Fusion. So I'll kind of focus on that for today's webinar. And ultimately, it can be a very challenging system to extract data from VOs, from BIP reports, etc. And Incorta vastly simplifies the effort required to get to that end goal where we have consumption-ready data for our business. Now, just to illustrate what's going on here, if we kind of focus in on, let's say, Oracle Cloud ERP, just as an example, what Incorta brings to the table is we have accelerators. We have all of the physical models across the various modules, let's say GL, AR, AP, inventory, etc., all built out as part of these accelerators that we offer. So Incorta is effectively going to ingest that data and land it into our smart Parquet Delta Lake in a compressed state. Now, from there, a few things can happen. We can land those base tables, those VOs from Fusion, for instance, into a CDC processed layer within BigQuery, meaning you would have access to the data on a row-by-row basis exactly as it lives in Fusion to create your analytic layer, your reporting layer. You can curate views on top of that. However, Incorta also offers fact and dimensional models that we can land out into the reporting layer within BigQuery. So we leverage materialized views within Incorta, and we have things like GL facts, common dimensions, etc., with respect to Oracle Cloud ERP Fusion. So, ultimately, what we deliver is both, analytic ready reporting models, but you never lose sight of that 3NF data, that transactional data directly from Fusion, as that's also delivered alongside the reporting models within BigQuery. Now, focusing on Fusion a bit, this seems to be where, a lot of organizations are having a lot more challenges, let's say, than some of the other ERPs. But how Incorta works with Fusion is we have a custom connector that we design, develop, and maintain. Now, how this works effectively is we will land an extraction file that contains the VOs that map to our accelerator, within Fusion. And that will curate, jobs that will run at extraction time. So when a job is ran from Incorta, let's say a full load or an incremental load, it's going to kick off and trigger the extraction from BICC. It's going to land those data files in either UCM or OCS, and then Incorta is going to extract that data and load it into that compressed Parquet Delta Lake that I showed you on the previous slide. We also have some capabilities around extracting data directly from BIP, which removes the limitations that many of you are probably familiar with. 2 million records, 10 megs. We can extract the full data set based on a query that we would issue against BIP effectively. Let's jump into platform and let me illustrate a few things that may be of interest to you. So we're going to go into Incorta now. And I want to focus initially on just the marketplace real briefly. So within Incorta, we have a lot of accelerators. Now we do a lot of Oracle EBS and Fusion implementations. It kind of reduce that engineering effort. And that's kind of why I'm focusing on Fusion. It seems to be kind of where there's the most pain in the market. Now, Fusion aside, we have accelerators, again, including the physical models, including some analytic ready materialized views that we can land out in the reporting layer in BigQuery, analytic ready data effectively. But you'll notice that we have various other systems, including JDE, whether it's on MS SQL or Oracle backend. We have Salesforce, SAP, etc. We have a lot of accelerated content with pre-built models. Now, focusing back on Fusion, in this environment, you can see I have a Fusion connection, created already, and this just requires basic, typical authentication information. But I want to kind of hone in for a moment on the data destination, and this is the mechanism that allows Incorta to write that data to BigQuery effectively. And it's very simple, very easy to set up. Now, in this example, if I wanted to create a new data destination, we already have one, as you can see. But if I wanted to create one, it's very easy. I just need the project ID. So I go out to my Google console, I can get my project ID, quite quickly and easily. And then I simply need to grant the Incorta service account 2 roles via the IAM in the GCP console. And that's going to be a data editor and a job user role. So setting this up is very, very simple. We're not talking days of configuration effectively. Now moving on a bit, this environment has the accelerator deployed. And what you're going to notice here is, we follow the modules from Fusion. We have AR, we have AP, we have, FA, GL, inventory, PO, procurement, and the subledgers. All of this raw data, again, can be landed out to the CDC layer. And then we have fact and dimensional models available as well that are generally going to be landed out into that reporting layer. And we can curate views in BigQuery using Google SQL to simplify the data for consumption downstream and Looker, generally speaking. Now, if we take a look at one of these, let's say that maybe I want to take a look at GL as an example. One of the things that you'll notice is we're taking a look at the ERD effectively. And I can see, the common tables, from the GL module, our balances, our journal line, our batch, our header, our category, etc. But these schemas are not isolated. Within Incorta, all of Fusion is interrelated in the physical model. So if we expand out this representation of the subledger, let's just say we expand that out, I can see this contains JE keys, it includes some XLA or subledger bridges, etc. If we expand out the financial comment, we can see the ledger, the code combos, the GL balances, etc. So effectively, what this allows us to do is very simply curate analytic ready materialized views that we can persist out into BigQuery alongside, maybe any views that we may be curating on that side using Google SQL. And this is effectively, one of the mechanisms that we leverage to curate, the fact and dimensional models. Because we already know where the relationships are within Incorta, we can simply drag and drop the attributes from the appropriate tables to curate a materialized view that we would then persist out into the reporting layer of BigQuery. If we take another look back out at the physical schema, again, we have fact and dimensional models that we land alongside the raw data. Now, if we come into the Fusion comment all, just as an example here, we can see, effectively various dimensional tables from ledgers to organization to suppliers, etc. And again, these are generally going to be landed out into the reporting layer of BigQuery. Now, in Incorta, we have this materialized view capability as part of our semantic layer. And this is effectively where we curate these models, and our customers can curate, some of their own fact and dimensional models based on their unique needs if we don't have coverage for it out of the box. And it's all drag and drop. And just as an example, let's take a little look here at the existing models. I'll just on the notation there. If we come into the GL models, you can see, again, we have the fact GL balances, journal details, etc. If we just take a little peek at the journal details, what you'll see is this data is coming from multiple VOs effectively from Oracle Cloud Fusion. But in Incorta, we're able to simply use drag and drop to define this materialized view that we would persist back in the physical layer and ultimately load into BigQuery. As we kind of go through this process, one of the other key things is, of course, Incorta has, the scheduling capabilities with respect to curating load plans and, running those based on the business needs. So in many cases, we may have scenarios where some of the schemas, let's say, GL, maybe it needs to be refreshed every 60 minutes, whereas maybe some of the dimensional models need to be refreshed and scheduled off peak in the middle of the night. Regardless of your unique scenario, we can obviously accommodate that, based on how we configure and design and deploy these load plans per your specific business needs and requirements. Now, once that data is landed out into BigQuery, what you're going to see here is we're simply taking those VOs that we're ingesting into our physical schema, and then at load time, we're persisting that as part of the load process out to BigQuery. So in this scenario, in my BigQuery tenant that we can see right now, you can see, I've in fact landed Fusion AP, Fusion AR, FA, GL, HCM, procurement, etc. This is exactly the same data that exists in Fusion on a row-by-row basis. We're not pre-aggregating it. We're not summarizing it. So you can maintain that integrity of the data. Now, as I mentioned a couple of times, alongside that, we also land, various models, those fact and dimensional models I illustrated briefly from Incorta's physical schemas, and then the semantic MV layer. We can see that represented here. In this case, I can see my AP fact invoice holds. I can see all of these other fact and dimensional models that I can leverage, downstream, whether it be Gemini or Looker or other downstream platforms. Additionally, you can lay views in BigQuery. So here's an example where we're looking at our GL journal view. We can go to the details just for a quick moment, and you can see, we have some views already baked in that we can land alongside the fact and dimensional models that are leveraging these. But again, your business has a lot of uniqueness to it. And ultimately, at the end of the day, you may be curating and deploying your own views, per your use case on top of our fact and dimensional models, or you may simply be leveraging, the modeling capabilities within Looker to curate the models based on the fact and dimensions, or maybe even from the CDC layer for analytic purposes. With that said, I appreciate you all joining me today. If there's anything in your organization that you want to explore more around Incorta and our capabilities with Google BigQuery and landing analytic ready data out into your BigQuery tenant for downstream consumption, reach out to us and we'd be happy to do a deeper dive. Thank you.